You're listening to the Sportsman's Nation Podcast Network, brought to you by Savage Arms. We all know that the human body comes in all different shapes and sizes. However, most firearms do not. That is why Savage Arms has rolled out their AccuFit system on the 110 platform. AccuFit uses interchangeable components that allow hunters to custom fit both comb height and the length of pull without taking their rifle to a gunsmith. In fact, the only tool you need is a Phillips head screwdriver. If you want to find out more information about the AccuFit customization system, visit savagearms.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ohio Huntsman Podcast. And today we're talking about the Outdoor Foundation's Outdoor Participation Report. So this is a report that looks at participation in outdoor sports, outdoor activities countrywide, nationwide. It's not just a hunting report. So it looks at kayaking, camping, hiking, anything and everything like that, outdoor activities. And they look at what types of trends they're seeing. And we thought it was interesting. We drew some interesting parallels between the outdoor industry as a whole as compared to hunting. So, interesting conversation. One caveat, one warning I need to give you. After how many years of doing this podcast now, I still apparently make newbie mistakes. So, I didn't have my good mic that I'm talking into right now plugged in at the beginning of this episode. So you'll hear, as we start talking about this report, you'll hear some clicking. That's me clicking around in this report, some clicking or tapping. Hopefully it's not too terribly annoying for you. We catch it there in the middle, and I get things swapped over, so just bear with me. Sorry about that. There's some clicking or tapping you're going to hear in this one. But before we get into that, and you get to hear my my newbie mistake, I want to talk about our sponsor, Mastin's Deer Sense. So Mastin's Deer Sense is really Mastin's all kinds of sense, because they're really expanding into the predator hunting category. So if you're into predator hunting, check them out. mastinsdeersense.com is their website. You can browse all of the different scents that they offer, and not only just the scents they offer, but the types of scent products. So scented gel crystals, scented candles for all different, it's not just deer. Let me remind you, it's not just deer. They have like rabbit dander candles that you can use in their double scent stacker. So lots of cool stuff going on over there at Mastin's. If that's interesting to you, if it's something you do, predator hunting, check them out. Go to mastinsdeersense.com, order right on their website, and ship it right to your house. Now with that, let's get into our conversation with Jacob, Jeff, and myself. Welcome to the Ohio Huntsman Podcast, where three brothers, Jason, Jacob, and Jeff, discuss all things hunting in Ohio. Our goal is to be your source for accurate and reliable hunting news and conservation issues in the great state of Ohio, as well as some fun and interesting conversations along the way. This is the Ohio Huntsman Podcast.
Are you listening?
All right, so today we've got a few kind of main topics, but just some other sort of update conversation. Another, we need a name for these, like hodgepodge type episodes. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. But if you listeners have an idea on, where we it's not one main topic that we're going to discuss the entire time, let us know. I'm trying to think of a good name for that. But anywho, I guess let's start with updates. Anything you guys have been up to in the outdoors? Or I've got a quick story I can start with?
Go ahead. Tell your quick story, and then I'll
All right.
tell you what I've been doing.
So before we pressed record, I told you it's been kind of a crazy day. Well, part of the reason it's been kind of a crazy day is as you guys know, the listeners might not know, we're on a cistern here, and so similar componentry to a well in that we have a pump here and a pressure tank that, that's how we get water. Well, our pump started leaking over the weekend. It was leaking water onto the floor.
That's no good.
Yeah. And thankfully, Ella and I were down there. We've got some, I call them workbenches, but I think they were more like display benches that were installed by the previous owner. The reason I say that is they're too high to be workbenches. They're almost like chest level. Well,
yeah,
over the weekend,
almost looks like he might have had like toy trains on him or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think so, because when we came and looked at the house before we bought the house, when we came down into the basement, these benches that are all around the unfinished part of the basement were covered in like Lionel train stuff, trains and the little shops and stuff that, if you were going to build like a train scene.
Right.
And I don't know if he was buying and selling the stuff but yeah, it was all set up high. It's not like countertop or workbench height. It was high. So you can put stuff up on there, but it's not real practical as a workbench. So anywho, long story short, we were down here over the weekend lowering all of that. And I happened to walk down to the other end of the basement where the pump and the pressure tank and everything are, and there's water on the ground. Little investigative work, and I realized, crap, this pump's leaking. Call the cistern guy. He says I can be there on Monday. I'm actually down in southern Ohio for the weekend, but I can be there Monday. How bad's it leaking? I said, it's not, we'll survive till Monday. So he shows up today. He's doing his thing, and he's in the basement, and I can hear I can hear some sort of audio playing. I don't know if it was a YouTube video or a podcast, but I said that voice sounds familiar. And so I kind of stopped and I listened, and he's down there. He's got Jeff Sturgis. I know his voice, right? He's got Jeff Sturgis. He's, does like whitetail property management and growing big deer and that, that sort of thing.
All right.
And I thought, wonder if that's why he was in southern Ohio. He's got some property down there or whatever. He's a hunter. And so I asked him, he was finishing up. I said, so you down in southern Ohio, you got a hunting camp or something down there? He says, oh yeah. And so we got to talking deer hunting, and he said, I don't know if you on YouTube, you seen Jeff Sturgis? I said, oh yeah. Him and the other guys that they've got 40, 50 acres down there. They're actually in September, I guess he said, Jeff Sturgis is coming down. He's going to be in Ohio. He's got a handful of properties to do work on. But yeah, they paid him, or they're going to pay him to come down and evaluate their property and give him, write up a plan for them. So I thought, that's cool.
Yeah.
So not me
that's
per
cool.
se, but I thought I was like, well, I picked a good guy to to work on my
there you go
here.
Well, kind of piggybacks off of what we talked about last week, though, too. Like, you just never know.
Yeah.
Who is a hunter and who it's not. Not every hunter wears camo and has a, big giant buck sticker on their pickup truck.
Yeah.
But yeah, my outdoors quick story, I guess, is my wife kind of surprised our family with that we were gonna pack up and go down to the camp down in southern Ohio, the cabin. It was kind of a last minute decision. She just maneuvered some stuff with work and made it happen. So that was nice. We went down there, enjoyed our time, took the kids down. They love it down there, but I had the bright idea that, it's time to look around for sheds. So I have 2 little kids. I knew I wasn't going to get too much out of them. So we're going to go on one hike. We went down late Friday, came home Sunday. So I figured Saturday, midday, if it's not raining, we'll do one trip. I'm going to make it a good one. There's an oak flat. If you ever, I'm sure we've talked about it in our previous podcast. It's one of our popular hunting spots down there on the top of this hill. It flattens out, and there's a bunch of oak trees up there. Holds deer. It's a good spot to hunt. We've killed a lot of deer. Dad kind of has always hunted up there. We grew up with Dad. That was Dad's spot. So
Right.
I figured I got one shot at it. So we're going to hike on up to the top of this hill. My thought being, we get up there, it clears out pretty nice once you're up there. So the kids, will be able to kind of roam around and walk around, and we don't have to be right next to them, holding them up so they're not falling in a briar patch. So I figured we'll hike on up there. Well, we managed. I had to carry my son the second half all the way up the hill. So we get all the way up there. I'm sweating. He's telling me his legs don't work. Lily and my wife, Lindsay, had, they finally made it up, and we weren't up there for 10 minutes, and they were ready to go home after I hiked all the way up there with them. So it was a failure.
Oh, bummer.
My eyes were bigger than my stomach, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I did end up finding one shed down there, not on that trip. We went back to the cabin and laid my son down for a nap, and I snuck away. As I do when I'm down there, I go on a short little walk, and then that turns into a longer walk, and that turns into being gone for hours. So I thought, I'm just going to walk this flat. And then next thing I know, it's like, I'm going to go up this hill and follow this trail. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm nowhere near the cabin anymore.
Yeah.
So I did find one shed. It was an old one, though. It wasn't a fresh one. And believe it or not, it was in a spot where we walked. I guarantee we walked right over it doing a deer drive this year. But with the weather and the snow, there's just no way you could have saw it. But it was right on a hill face that we did a deer drive across. So
easy to walk past them.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of my extent of my outdoor time. Is we took a trip down south and had a good time. Found one old shed, cut firewood, and kind of cleaned the cabin up. So
cool. Jeff, you got anything?
Yeah. So this fall deer season will be a little bit more personal for me. Tuesday on my way home from work, I got off work a little early, about 4:00. So there was a lot of traffic. People who got off work at 4 all heading home. So there's a good amount of traffic going both ways on the road. It's a 2-lane road, but country highway, speed limit's 50 or 55, and going down the road, and there's a line of cars coming the other way, and it's like 4 or 5 cars coming the other way, and after the first car goes by, I notice, oh wow, like a deer just hit the side of the road on the other side of the, and then turned back, so as between the first and the second car. Second car goes by, and right behind it comes a deer. Nothing I can do. It runs into the driver's side window of my car.
Oh.
Just smashes. Boom. And I,
So you were going full speed?
I was going, yeah. I was probably going, yeah. There was nothing I can do. The most I did was turn my wheel a little bit, to try to swerve a little bit. But yeah, I was probably going, I was going 55, 60 miles an hour.
Oh,
Wow.
And I whacked this. It was a boom. And I'm thinking the whole side of my car is torn off. I whacked it.
yeah.
So I drive a little bit further, so like to find a place where I can pull off. I pull off. All the cars behind me go, drive. I pull into a driveway, and I was like, well, first thing I should do is, if I killed this deer, I should get it off the road. So I turn around to go back the other way, and there was a car coming back the other way now who saw me hit that deer and, like waves at me to, roll down my window. And he said, "You hit that deer, right? Like, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine," And I'm thinking, how does this guy not know that I hit that deer? Like, I'm sure the whole side of my car is caved in.
Right.
And then I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, and he looked at my car and said, yeah, I can tell now. But I said, did you see what happened to the deer? And he said, yeah, you hit it. It fell down. I think the car behind you may have ran over it a little bit, but then it got up and ran off. And it ran across this field, and it's it made it all the way across the field and into those woods. It took off. It seemed to be fine. So I'm like, all right. So I then pull into another driveway of a business, and get out to look at my car, because I'm thinking the whole car is just, going to be smashed up. I had a lot of mud, a lot of hair, because where this deer hit, its face, like you could see a imprint of its face on my, I have like a little window right by my rear view mirror. Like it's not my roll down driver's side window, but there's a little window there, and its face, you could see an imprint of its face on that little window. And then there was mud, like on my window, and deer hair, like in the trim of my back driver's side window. And then it just dented a little spot right by the door handle, and like creased the door a little bit. And that was all the damage there was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It still is going to cost an arm and a leg to get fixed.
Yeah.
But it didn't do much damage. Had I been a fraction of a second slower, that deer would have came through my front windshield.
Oh, man.
I barely, hit it with the side. Well, it barely hit me instead of me hitting it.
Yeah.
Right.
It ran into the side of my car instead of me hitting it.
Even like a millisecond, right? Its head would have been in front of the A pillar instead of just behind it.
Right. Yeah. It was close. And I was going full speed. Not many people probably hit a deer going that fast.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
How close were you to home? Like, is this a resident deer that you're...
No, it wasn't too far from Jason's house, actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Jason,
maybe...
Jason, you have to look for the deer without a head.
Yeah, well,
the blue paint smeared on its fur.
Yeah.
Funny story. actually my wife, a friend of hers from work, lives, 100 yards from where I hit this deer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they own a bigger chunk of property. And we told them, like, go look. There might be a dead deer, that I hit, in your woods. And they went out and looked just to see, and they said, no, we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But there was nothing I could do. I never would have expected a deer to cross a road like that.
Yeah.
Sneak in between cars like that. And yeah, I whacked it. And I was on the phone with my wife, actually. I was on the phone through the car speaker, and I saw the first deer, and was like, oh crap. And Amber was like, what? And then she just heard, and then I said, oh crap, again. And then she just hears thud. And then I said, some profanities, and she's like, what just happened? I said, I just hit a freaking deer. Because the first deer, I was thinking, wow, that was a close call.
Right.
Like, had that deer stepped out into the road, that other guy would have smacked it. There was nothing that other guy could have done.
Right.
And then right on his bumper, the end of his car, this deer came across.
Wow. Well, that sucks, but yeah, like you said, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I guess along the lines of deer, Jeff, you had mentioned that they found the second wild deer in Ohio to test positive for CWD. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the second, we've just had the second wild deer in Ohio test positive for CWD. It actually was almost in the exact same area as the first deer that tested positive. The first deer that tested positive was taken on private land, but it was very close to Killdeer Plains Wildlife Area. Late season, they had a controlled hunt at Killdeer Plains Wildlife Area, and they tested all the deer that were harvested at that controlled hunt, and a mature doe from that hunt tested positive for CWD. So
Okay.
it was within 2 miles of the last deer to test positive. So, I guess it's a good thing that it's all in one area, kind of, but it's also really bad because it's that other deer wasn't just a fluke.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't just some freak accident or, false positive or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, I think that everyone kind of knew that was doubtful that it was just a fluke, but everyone was kind of hoping that was what the case was.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess for me, I'm kind of surprised they didn't find more than that. I would think you find one and then you increase your testing in that area and it's like, oh yeah, it's here, But,
yeah. And it's kind of surprising where it popped up, in Ohio. I don't think we'll ever know how it got there.
Right.
But it's surprising. I guess a good thing though is that it is so close to a ODNR owned property that they may have a little bit more control and resources to control the spread. They don't have to worry about a lot of other landowners, or
Sure, yeah.
I mean, the outbreak is on their property basically. So
Right, yeah.
maybe that's a blessing, maybe it's not, but it's definitely not what I think anyone would have expected of how CWD would come to Ohio, where we would find it, and
Right. Yeah, I mean, it like we did that episode in the past, and it's like it doesn't make a ton of sense, right? I mean, you would have expected it to slowly sort of migrate across the state lines from states that have existing known CWD cases, and that doesn't really seem to be what's happened.
Right, yeah, or whether it's justified or not, deer farms are seen as being a big culprit.
Right.
So you would think like, oh, this deer farm, had an outbreak of CWD and it got to the wild population. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. There isn't really known captive deer populations in that area.
Right. Yeah, so we'll continue to monitor that and keep everybody updated as we find out more information. And when we hear more things, you'll hear more things. So believe it or not, my dad just the other day got pictures of bucks still holding their antlers, but I think most of them have shed or will be shedding, and that means new antler growth and nutrition. So antlers require mineral and nutrition to grow. Does need nutrition for fawn development and producing milk for the fawns to nurse. So Monster Whitetail Grub is what you need for that nutrition. Check them out. They've got their signature Monster Whitetail Grub feed, which is a high protein feed. It's got mineral mixed in, which keeps the deer coming back even after the physical feed is gone. They have their straight mineral, which I know a lot of you like to run in the spring. We do too. So check them out, Monster Whitetail Grub. Go to ohiohuntsman.com/sponsors, and there's links to get in touch with them, order their product, and help your deer's nutrition this spring. I guess along those lines, though, as far as, CWD and its potential impacts on, hunter participation or, people feeling safe to eat wild deer meat, Jeff also brought up this 2020 outdoor participation report that was done by the Outdoor Foundation. Now, this isn't specific to Ohio. This is a national report. The Outdoor Foundation is out of Colorado. But it's got, we could and may talk about this more, because it's a 25-page document and there's a ton of interesting information in here. So they talk about demographics of people that are participating, the type of outdoor activities that they're participating in, diversity, like Hispanic, Black Americans, Asians, Caucasians, male versus female, youth. I think they break down youth into two different categories. Let me see if I can find that real quick. So they had 6 to 12
and
and then
13 to 17.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah. So
lots of information. And when I was originally looking through this, because they pull out, they put this report together. They've obviously got their raw data, and then they put this report together. And a lot of what they're talking about is, hiking, camping, biking, whether it's like BMX biking or mountain biking, or, and it's like, well, this is, I feel offended that they left hunting out. Well, then when you get down into the actual data here, hunting is in there. It just doesn't rank as, some of the key findings of like the most popular or, gaining market share, if you will, among women or, that sort of thing. So that's why it wasn't really mentioned in the report. They did ask about it. But one question, and I don't know, Jeff, if you had more time to look into this, I was trying to understand, so that the participant activity, they have this table of participant activity, and they've got everything: archery, adventure racing, backpacking, bicycling, and bicycling is broken down into road, mountain, BMX, or just BMX biking, mountain on non-paved surfaces, so they've got a couple different bicycling categories, bird watching, camping, and they've got a couple different camping categories, so on and on and on. And so they're giving a number and then a percent. I'm not clear what that number is. Is that like participation days, or?
I think the number is the number of outdoor recreants who said that they do that specific recreation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the number of people that they surveyed who said that they do participate in outdoor recreation said that that is a recreation that they do.
Got it. So I guess that makes more sense, because I was thinking that it was like the number of days that people reported participating in that, or if that's what they were reporting. That's not really an accurate snapshot of hunting, I wouldn't say, because you have a very limited season in which you're allowed to hunt, right? A lot of biking, running, hiking, right? Camping, some of that probably falls off in the colder months, but hunting, you're either allowed to do it during this time or you're not, and so I was like,
right.
Well, I don't know that this is super accurate, but if it's what you're saying,
yeah,
the number of people that reported participating in that, then that's, I guess that's probably a better like apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, and one thing I found very interesting, a data point that they had that I found very, very interesting, was that of outdoor recreators, the percent that report hunting hasn't really gone down over time. The number of people participating in outdoor activities has gone down. So has hunters, but it's not disproportional. Hunting isn't disproportionately going down. It's staying steady at about 5%.
To the number of people that report participating in any outdoor activities, right?
Right. So it's not necessarily a hunting problem, it's an outdoor activity problem, if you will.
Yeah. That is interesting, because they do that. I mean, that seems to be one of the big takeaways of this report. I guess, I'll briefly read the executive summary here at the beginning. It says so this is 2009. They don't have 2020 data, which would be interesting, to see how COVID impacted this. But executive summary: in 2019, just over half of Americans ages 6 and older participated in outdoor recreation at least once, the highest participation rate in 5 years. However, nearly half of the U.S. population did not share in the proven positive health outcomes of physical activity that takes place outdoors. So basically, I thought that was interesting, I guess, that they also say the report highlights the enormous risks facing the outdoor industry. More must be done to change this trajectory for the health of the industry and the health of society. Collective action through philanthropy, Marketing and policies at the local, state, and federal levels can help bring individuals and entire communities to the outdoors and inspire a nationwide outdoor habit. So yeah, I guess that sort of, Jeff, echoes your point in that everything is sort of trending down. I mean, we in the hunting community hear and talk a lot about hunting going down, but it's bigger than just hunting, I guess. And they spend a fair bit of time in here talking about youth, and they say the youngest participants. Let me try that again. The youngest participants, children ages 6 to 17, were outdoors far less. Average annual outings fell from a high of 91 per year in 2012 to just 77 per child participant in 2019. This represents a risk to future industry growth. So,
yeah, and this is the part that I think the most valuable piece of information from this is when you look at the non-outdoor participants, when they asked them what outdoor activities they're most interested in, the highest one for both the 6 to 12 and 13 to 17 is fishing. They're interested in fishing. So, that kind of falls on us.
Yeah.
That's a problem our specific outdoor community can solve.
And the second most is camping.
Right.
So while that's not always a part of hunting, it can, I would consider what we do down at deer camp camping, right? I mean, we've got electricity, but it's a form of camping, I guess. We're not camping in a tent by any means, right? But
right. And by the standards of this report, that would be camping too. When they classify what they classify camping as, they classify car camping, RV camping, all of the camping to get you outdoors camping. It's not just backcountry backpacking camping.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But
another thing is when they said by non-participants by income bracket, everyone whose income, the top income, everyone whose income bracket was below 75,000 a year, the three income brackets, their top, the top thing that they said that they would be interested in is fishing, and then followed by camping.
Okay.
So, that kind of falls on us. Maybe, we talk a lot about, getting kids hunting, but maybe fishing is a better gateway.
Yeah.
There seems to be more interest, and it's easier to get a kid interested in something that they're already interested in than getting them interested in something new.
Right. You got to kind of meet them where they're at and hopefully expand from there, or at least it would seem.
Right. And I feel like that fishing is ranked so high because it's there is this interest in wildlife without killing.
Right.
The hunting would be ranked just as high if it didn't involve the killing.
Right.
I think that's, obviously with hunting, that's one of the hardest things to cope with, if you will, is the taking of a life.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of understand the circle of life to be okay with that.
Right. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of interest in kind of our sector of, hunting, fishing, camping, foraging. There's a lot of interest in that. And that's the area that could really grow and get people outdoors. I would assume if you did this, study probably, 40, 50 years ago, a lot more people would be spending their time outdoors with fishing and hunting.
Right.
And there'd be a lot less recreational swimming or, other things that they have here, martial arts and team sports. There'd be less of that and more hunting and fishing.
Yeah. The other thing I thought, sort of along those same lines, is this page here talking about most popular activities among young adults 18 to 24, and running is number one with 32.2% of young adults, but hiking is number two at 22%. And I again, like, that feels, hiking is, some forms of hunting are kind of like hiking with like I don't know, I don't want to say an end goal, because a lot of times hiking is like, yeah, I'm going to hike this trail, or I'm going to hike up to this peak, or, whatever. But like hunting, a big part of hunting is a lot of hiking in the woods, or
Right.
A lot of it's
fields.
taking your gun for a walk.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you really break it down like that, I mean, like you said, what is the difference between hiking and hunting, other than if you're lucky, you get to harvest an animal? I mean, really all we're doing is a lot of hiking and a little shooting.
Especially when it comes to, Jake and I's turkey hunting in the spring. We do a lot of
Right.
hiking.
A lot of hiking. Right.
A lot of taking
Little
the
shoots.
shotgun for a walk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I think all of it just echoes. It's all just like Jeff said, it's like a transition from outdoor to indoor activity. I think if we just sometimes I feel like we try to bite off too big of pieces. Like, we need to get more people hunting. Yes, but I think we just need to get more people outside.
Yeah.
So that they can see what nature and the outdoors has to offer. And then we go from there, like if that's hiking, like bring someone, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to take you hunting, say, hey, we're going to go hike around these woods all day. And if you don't mind, I'm going to carry my 22 with me. And if we see a squirrel, I'm going to shoot it.
Right.
Really, all we're doing is hiking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rephrasing the way you present it to people.
Right.
Or I mean, even without taking the 22, I think, to your point, just getting people interested in activities outside, and then let them go on that journey, right? Like, everybody goes through this journey as a hunter, as an outdoorsman, where, initially maybe it's just about killing something, and that to the uninitiated or the non-hunter, that sounds brash, but like, I just want to get something, right? And then maybe your standards change, and then maybe you want to learn more about the habitat and learn more about the animal in order to pursue it better, locate it better, whatever, and you go on this journey, multi-year, lifelong journey. And so, maybe to your point, just getting them outside and teaching them a thing or two may be the thing that's like, I kind of like that. I want to do that some more. And maybe they eventually, say, oh, I went fishing as a kid. I'm going to get back into fishing, or I'm going to, I've been fishing for a while, and I really like catching and eating these fish. What else can I, catch and eat? Can I catch a deer? And so yeah.
Well, and I mean, we didn't do a ton of it growing up necessarily, but I know my dad, like our dad did. They called them survivor weekends or whatever. Like they would leave school Friday, and they wouldn't. They would come home, drop their backpack off, and they'd go out in the woods and not come back till Sunday night.
Right.
They would, they'd camp. They would shoot whatever they're going to eat, catch whatever they're going to eat. And that's just what they did. It was fun. It's cool to say like, hey, you know what? I can survive out here on my own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just I think it's ingrained in everybody. I mean, we're made that way.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting back to that. And in some cases, it's under a lot of layers of fear, doubt, whatever. It's just getting people back to the outside where, for lack of a better way to put it, where we belong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the concept of like a survival weekend, would be pretty foreign to kids nowadays. Like, because it was, when we were growing up, it was like, oh yeah, that'd be something interesting to do, but we're gonna pack all the food we need.
Right.
And I think now it would be like, wait, what? Like, you want me to spend all weekend outside, like no electricity, and like go hungry if I don't get food, I'm gonna go hungry. Like, what?
Yeah. They'd be like, there's Wi-Fi though, right?
Right. Yeah. And like, what's fun about that?
Yeah.
Like what's the fun? I'm not understanding,
Yeah. Yeah. So if anybody's interested in it, Jeff, what's the best way for people to find this document? Or are we going to put it up on the website or something? How should we steer people to find this document if they want to look into this?
Yeah, we could probably put it up on the website. If you are interested in the organization, I'm trying to think what their outdoorfoundation.org is their website. So
okay. You
can go there and find a lot of information. I think that this report is kind of the highlight of their stuff. They have other resources and data on there, but this report, in my opinion, is kind of the highlight of the organization and what they're putting out there.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a ton in this that, you could really pick this apart and, we're not going to do that, but there's certainly more in this than what we covered today. So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, worth at least a cursory review, I would say. And it, like we said, it seems like on one hand, things are trending downward, but for hunting, it was a little bit encouraging for me in that there's a lot of interest, or seems to be a lot of interest, in activities that are, not a big leap from hunting. There's big interest in fishing, which is great. I love seeing that. And there's the hiking and camping interest, which isn't a big leap then to hunting. And so if we as the current hunting population could keep that in mind, tap into that, it seems encouraging in some ways for the future of hunting. I don't know if you guys felt that way or not, but
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt it was, encouraging that hunting and fishing isn't alone in having decreasing numbers,
yeah,
and that, yeah, a lot of the activities that there's interest in, and a lot of the activities that are not necessarily growing, but growing in proportion to others, aren't a huge leap.
right.
Because in the past couple of years, there's been a slight uptick in archery, which is just like recreational archery shooting.
Yeah,
Well, that's not a huge leap to, well, now I want to, try to harvest an animal with
right.
this. And it was almost twice as many people are recreational archery shooting as are hunting with a bow. So that's,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, that's interesting, and that's kind of an untapped market. Like, there's a lot of people who are proficient with archery who all they need to do is take that one step.
Right. Screw a broadhead on and
Right.
aim at an animal.
Right. It's not a huge leap whatsoever.
Right.
And they have kayak fishing on here is, like kind of a new growing, it wasn't on the report when they started making the report back in 2007. Like, that wasn't even a category that people could say they participate in. And, now it's on the list, and it's a growing activity. So, that's kind of another thing, is potentially kayak hunting, where you're floating down a river, either waterfowl hunting or, deer hunting or whatever, squirrel hunting, that may be, the next big thing. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to switch it off. Like I said, a lot more in this one, and we may reference this in the future, but yeah, we thought it was worth at least discussing a little bit. So, all right, that's it for this week. As always, thank you all for listening, taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast, and more importantly, share it. Share it on your social media pages. Share it with your hunting friends. Share it with your family. That means a lot to us. So if you liked it, if you thought it was interesting, share it to your social media page. That would really help us get the word out and help the podcast grow. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.